Hi, and welcome to episode 140 of the I Rock Knits podcast. And today I am with another friend, and this is one of my oldest and dearest friends, Susan Bergquist. And I'm so excited for what she has to show us today because she brought some really fun and amazing knits, but we have a great how we met one another story.
Yes, we do. And first, I'd like to thank you for inviting me to participate on your podcast because I've watched a few of them.
Yep.
You've mentioned to me that I haven't watched all of them, but
no, but who would watch all of them? 140.
140, which is
no,
incredible.
I didn't say all. I just didn't think you watched podcasts.
Yep, I'll watch podcasts once in a while.
I didn't think you were a podcast watcher. I mean, some people don't sit down and watch.
Right. Or they'll listen, I'll listen while I'm walking, but knitting, you have to really watch to really understand or appreciate what they're talking about, right? I mean, it's not something you can listen to.
Oh, yeah, no, you could listen. I mean, I am such a chatterbox that it's all stories.
True,
and very little hands-on content.
And I wanted to point out to your audience that it is the coldest day of the year, and I live 40 minutes away, and I trekked over here for you, my dear friend, because you do so much to help me with my knitting.
She did.
And you're a good friend.
And the reason that I have everyone trek out here is because I have the setup, right?
Yes.
Like I have the camera height,
Yes,
and I have the lights, and I have the thing in the background, and all, so I have to say to them, you have to come to my house because I invited Bridget from Lakeside to come.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Oh, good.
She'll be, and so she's going to come in February.
Oh, great. Theater production.
Yeah, but I also said, I can't meet you somewhere at a coffee shop and try to do it because even though we could record, it would be weird. And
agreed.
So, let's tell them how we met.
Well, it was intermediate knitting. And
for me.
For you. And it was somewhere after the original project to learn to knit.
Yep.
Or towards the end of that, because we both met taking classes from Rosemary Cosell. And it was in Wayzata, where Rosemary was teaching at the time.
Yep. And she was teaching beginning knitting to you when her husband passed away.
Correct. And
I have told that story briefly, that her husband had passed away and that the class had to stop. And then you came back into, I think, our intermediate class.
Correct. Good memory. Fall of 92, that October.
Wouldn't have remembered that, but...
Because I originally went to learn how to knit because Jane, my daughter, had turned 2 and I wanted to knit her a sweater.
Yeah, okay.
And they posted the knitting class as Make a Child Sweater. And when I got there and met Rosemary, we were making an adult vest. one garment I've never worn. That I put all my love and time into. And I would never wear it in public.
I took the sweater class with the textured stitches up here. Never wore that either. Yep. With the cable, 2 cables and and I don't know if I took that, if that was beginning or intermediate, but what I made in the intermediate class you were in was a vest with a ton of textured stitches in it where you learned a whole bunch of textured stitches. And then it buttoned up the front and I put little watch button, like clock buttons on the front. And I wore it a lot. I wore that one a lot. But I remember taking it to the high school to have the library in Maryland pick up all the roundup because I couldn't see to pick up the stitches.
Sweater knitting, if it's one of your very first knitting projects, is daunting. When you think about sleeves and buttonholes and all of the knowledge and fit being most critical. And following the pattern. I don't interpret patterns the way that some people do, but I don't take tests well either.
Yeah.
And I just read too much into things.
Yeah. And I think that's true of a lot of people. But Rosemary's just, she's our dear friend, but she's a taskmaster. She is on it with you can do it and rip it out, start over.
No whining, Susan, stop whining. I remember her saying that to me so many times. It was hard just to learn to do the long tail cast on. I thought that was so complex. Yes. I never played with string as a child, so it just seemed really complex to me. But you do get quickly hooked.
Oh, for sure.
If you have any compulsiveness in you at all, or creativity, which you have both,
right? I do.
You're going to want to knit. Yeah. But did you learn to knit from your mother or your grandmother?
No, I learned to knit in college. I took a class. I stayed for the summer in Mankato, and I was working at the Mankato Free Press as an intern early in the morning. I had to be down there, I don't remember, 5 or 5:30. And I was writing the obituaries and doing the farm reports, and it was a daily. And then I would be done. And nobody stayed in town. None of the kids stayed around. I lived in an apartment, a 4-girl apartment by myself for the summer, and we were trying to sublet it. And so I signed up for a beginning knitting and a woodworking class on campus through community ed, because I was just like, what am I going to do? I got to do something. And they were free, and I just had to get my supplies. And I built a stereo stand, and I made a sweater. Like, I literally knit
That's impressive.
a 2-piece short sleeved. I've shown it on the podcast, I think, back in the day. But yeah, I knit a little. It would have been a twin set, but I didn't make the outside cardigan. I just made the underpiece. But that was my first, and I learned to knit with a long straight needle underneath my arms. So that would have been about 1983 or 84. I really need to look that date up because it wouldn't be hard for me to figure it out, but it was in the early 80s when I learned that. And then I didn't really knit that much because I didn't have any income, right? I was still in college, and I didn't have any money in college. And so I did some needlepoint and some cross stitch. Those didn't seem to be quite as expensive, but I don't remember seeing circular needles.
I don't either. My mother and my grandmother and my sister can all knit, and they gave up trying to teach me to knit. But I was in junior high, I think, when my grandmother tried to teach me. But she taught me to sew, to do some basic sewing on a treadle sewing machine. Yeah. And I inherited that when she passed. And I really enjoyed all of the creative process of picking out the fabric or picking out the accessory buttons. But when I first touched yarn, working with Rosemary in that beginning and then going on to intermediate class, I just fell in love with the fibers because they're so different from our grandmother's generation or even our mother's generation of knitting. And once the circular needles came into vogue, and just all the different yarns and the stories of these mills and where these yarns come from is really what drives me to knit.
Yeah, for sure. So we were sitting next to each other in that class, and we got to know each other a little bit because I was building a home at the time in Plymouth, and we were going to move, and you had built a home with the same builder.
Yes.
So and I have told this, but we met, and you saved me more money, and cost me more money, building that home and you even offered to go up there with me, and we'll take brownies for the workers. And we moved electrical boxes because one was behind the door, and it had French doors, and the light switch was behind the door, weird stuff that I might not have noticed. I think you might have been the one who told me to lay down on the floor when we did the walkthrough.
Yep.
And look up at things, and look from the floor level at everything when you do the walkthrough. So yeah, that is probably how we bonded quickly during that class, because it wouldn't have been a super long class.
No.
Few, maybe 4 or 5 weeks, 6 weeks maybe.
It was always intimidating because you're sitting in that class with people of different skill levels to knit, and I was struggling just to finish the original beginning knitting vest because we'd had an interruption of time, which was understandable because Rosemary's husband had passed unexpectedly. So trying to finish that, and then it was fall. It was fall, October, December, January of 93. And then I knit my first sweater sometime after that. I did bring along to show you today, but should we talk about...
No, we could show that one.
Show that one?
Yeah, let's.
And this was recommended to me by the shop owner and staff, and it's cotton, which would not be your first project after...
Yeah, when Susan brought this out just a little bit ago, I said, Susan, that never would have fit you.
No.
I mean, it's darling.
I could try, but
it is...
It could fit both of us.
Yeah, no, it would fit me. It would fit me.
It has a lot of different
textured stitches.
And I love cables. And
yes, you do.
Actually, I wear this belted with a skirt.
Oh.
And when I'm tired and grumpy at home, I'll put it on around the house.
Yeah, because you can you can wear something oversized like that. It's just that's not normally how you would dress. You don't dress that way usually.
But it was 90s as well. Different era.
Yeah,
different...
drop shoulders and that taking that on, I think would have happened because of Rosemary. Because Jackie would have said, because Jackie's the one who recommended it. And that, when she brought that out and said, I said, you knit with cotton? She said, yeah, Jackie. And I said, that is where I got my love of cotton then. And they carried so much of it. And they had nice cottons. Yes. Cottons that didn't stretch completely out of shape and were
colors.
Super. Yeah, lots. And so I was knitting, one of my second or third sweaters is yellow. And I showed it just on the last podcast. And it's textured stitches like that, short sleeve, but it's probably the same cotton. Probably. It wouldn't surprise me at all.
It wasn't difficult to work with, but you have to really have your gauge nailed to knit cotton. And be able to manage the stitches on a needle. Yeah. And I think I knit that with straight needles as well.
Probably.
And Rosemary had to help me with the sleeves. So if Rosemary's watching this, she'll say, I remember that sweater, and I think I knit half of the sleeves for you, Susan. So yes, it's very possible. Or if Janine's watching.
That's true. I don't know that Rosemary or Janine watch podcasts either. I mean, I just think that there's a real camp of people who watch all the knitting podcasts and they are all in. They know all of them. They pick the ones they like, but they will watch everything. And then there are people who are just like, oh, I've never really watched a podcast. I'm like, you're a knitter. There are so many good, interesting people out there talking about knitting. And I'll go to a yarn store and none of the people in there have ever seen a podcast either. Some people don't even know they exist, that a knitting podcast exists on YouTube, which is, fascinating. But to this day, Susan and I are still friends with Rosemary. We had tried to get together with her over the holidays and it didn't work out because we had different illnesses happening.
But it's her birthday in a few weeks, so we will take her out.
Yes, we will, because I just have her card on the kitchen counter over there. Well, yeah, because I'm going to be gone. So we have to, we'll schedule that.
We'll get it on the books. We'll drag her out of
her house in this cold, bitter, bitter cold. But yeah, Susan comes down to my house quite a bit, and I haven't gone to her house a whole ton because we are 40 minutes away now, because you moved further away.
I did. We downsized. The problem with downsizing when you're a knitter is that your spouse or your family or both are going to discover the yarn stash. That was really tough because my son-in-law had to help me haul it out of the house. And then moving into a smaller house in Plymouth, right down the road, basically from where you were living, there isn't any room. So now I have taken over half of the furnace room since COVID, and my husband's been kind enough to put up 2 more storage units, and then I have the crawl space under the stairwell, and I'm 5'9", so I can go into my yarn room maybe a third of the way. Then I have to get on my knees and crawl the rest of the way. So hence the yarn has spilled over now into my walk-in closet upstairs on the main level, and the furnace room is pretty much full.
That's what I just said on the other podcast when we moved here. The entire office was full of yarn boxes.
I remember that.
And I was astounded because when it comes out, you find all of it. And every time they find a skein or two, they put it in the same box. And then every box came in and it was labeled yarn, yarn, yarn. Yeah. So.
Makes sense to us.
But we've been knitting for so many years, too.
32 years.
Yeah.
And I was telling somebody at the Byerly's knitting group last week, they said, how long have you been knitting? I said, well, Corey and I met 32 years ago. And now it seems people react with, oh my gosh, wow, that's a long time. Yeah, it is. But still, I always say that we started out basically together and one of us advanced and one of us didn't. But it all has to do with how much time you have, and then you really are gifted, not only in teaching, I've taken classes from you, but also in the creative process of designing, which I don't think anyone probably really can truly understand unless you really are on the inside watching it, or you've done it yourself.
Yeah.
Which I would never do.
Yeah. But I thank you for saying that. But I also always then say, Susan was working a full-time job that caused her to travel weekly and taking large knitting projects on airplanes with multiple skeins of yarns and things like that. It's just not feasible. And you spent a ton of time in hotel rooms, but you're working. So a lot of the times you were working, and then you might maybe have time to work out and eat and go to bed, and then you're going back to a client the next morning or getting on another plane.
Yes.
Like from the time I met you and Neil, you guys you shared when you were gone during the week when Jane was young.
Yep.
And then all the years I've known you, you've been a platinum
road
member.
warrior. Yeah. Diamond.
Okay, diamond member. But yeah, like your air miles are incredible, but it's all based on your work.
Right.
And not and so I took the slower road, I was not teaching and not working in Virginia, and then I started teaching at some of the knitting groups. I formed a couple knitting groups, and I scrapbooked in Virginia because I didn't have a job. And then when we moved back, Kyla got the horse, and I didn't have a job because if you're going to get a horse, which our daughters both both swam competitively and both have horses and are very similar. They're only children. They're very strong, independent, opinionated women.
Smart.
Yep, smart women. And so we had that connection too, even though Jane was 7 years older. Jane kind of did the things, then I would follow in the footsteps, right? I'd be like, oh my gosh, we're buying another horse. We're buying a different horse. And you would be like, okay, but I drove to the barn because she was unable to drive. What year was it when Jane got her first horse?
Jane didn't get she took horse lessons and she was a Girl Scout. So she would go and teach horse riding at Girl Scout camp for the entire summer. She'd lived at the Girl Scout camp.
Because Kylie went to that camp one year. Yep.
Jane comes from a family of horses. My sister is in the Quarter Horse Hall of Fame.
Yep.
And raised horses. Jane didn't get her first horse till she was a freshman in college, and she was studying to be a veterinarian, but she's actually a nurse instead. Long story, but that's when she got her first horse, which I hid from Neil for the first 6 months that we owned the horse. And then my sister said, well, the horse has to go to training now. And I said, well, don't you do that? And she says, no, the horse has to go to Hastings to be trained.
And that's where Kylie had a horse at Hastings too. Yeah.
Same training facility.
Yep.
So you had a lot of downtime to knit.
I did because I sat in the car because it was cold and dirty in those barns.
Yeah, smelly.
Almost all the time. Yeah. Yes. So I did. So there were life reasons for why I became a knitting designer, but I had that goal many, many years ago, and most people don't have that goal.
No.
They'd say, I never want to write a knitting pattern. I remember the Grocery Girls, our podcast, saying, we will never, ever write knitting patterns. It's too hard. Now they're writing some patterns, but it's funny how people say, I'll never write a knitting pattern. But a lot of us write knitting patterns every time we knit because we rework things. We change numbers. We look at stuff.
That's true. I would write knitting patterns for my body type because my body type is different than your body type.
Absolutely.
And it's different than like you said, you're always modifying and measuring and changing it. I don't think people realize how much to get it really to fit right. Yep. You're very skilled at getting your garments to fit you. You're very skilled at that.
Yeah, it took a while. I mean, I definitely had some duds along the way, but now I know what I like and I know how to, although I just was telling everyone too on the podcast that went up, that I'm on a new diet plan because things are not fitting as well, and things are tighter and snugger, and I have too many knits to not get back, to that and to be able to wear those things. And I never was this round. All my life I wasn't this round. I was
muscular,
athletic
build.
Yep.
Very much an athletic build.
Yeah.
Should we talk about
for sure. All right, let's talk about this that is on the mannequin.
Church Mouse Yarns. I actually held 2 yarns together, but in the pattern that they've updated since I knit this, which has been 10 years, they are using Rowan felted tweed, which would be a great choice for it. And if you go to Bee Woolen, which is one of our favorite shops, we think that Angel and Michelle have really built a great business there, and a great, you will come. Drive up there to Champlin, but you will have a great time. They have this in, when you come in the door, they have all their Rowan yarn, and they have put a border on it, like a garter stitch border on it. Okay. And it really adds a lot to it. I could have made this longer than I did. I had a lot of yarn, both yarns. I think it was Iciker yarn and something else.
Well, because you're tall, but I like the length.
I like the length. And you'll notice as you look at my knitting, I have a thing for green. So there's always green or blue or gray or something.
And I have not knit this one, but Jan Tigas wore one to knitting a few weeks ago that was striped in Rowan felted tweed, kind of leftovers, and they were kind of muted jewel tones, and it was gorgeous. I literally took a picture of it across the table and said, I'm going to look up my leftovers and see,
send me that,
because it was so pretty. I have it in my phone, I'm sure.
One of my physician friends is knitting it right now in Rowan felted tweed, because I took her to Bee Woolen, and she's a cardiologist, and she's using knitting with her patients as a way to talk about lowering their blood pressure by knitting, because it really is a form of, for some people, it's a form of inner thinking, thoughts about life, and just a really relaxing. For some of us, I learned to swear when I learned to knit. My husband would say, you never used to swear, Susan, and now you're sitting here. He says, this is supposed to be relaxing therapy for you. And I said, no, it's not. But
so funny, because on the podcast with Janet, she's an introvert, and we talked a lot about introvertedness and extrovertedness, and how I don't want to be calm and quiet on my porch with nothing, no sound and knitting, and she could do that all day, right? So now you're bringing this up, which is very similar again, where that it should allow. But when you're a newer knitter, or if you're knitting something complicated, it can be stressful.
It can bring out the impatience in you.
Yeah. So this is knit just 2 pieces.
Yep, 2 pieces. It's called the easy folded poncho. But I really like what we were just talking about, that Bee Woolen has made it more interesting, and you can knit it in one color, you can hold 2 colors together. I found that I don't wear ponchos much, because our weather goes from spring to summer and from summer to winter, and that fall period when you would be most likely to go out and go hiking and something like this, we just don't have that.
And Susan is smaller shouldered than I am, so this is, the mannequin's going to be a little wide, plus this is a male mannequin. I have my female over there, but she's buxom because I have her cranked open.
No, then I'll stick with the male.
Yeah, I put my male stuff on. I use 2 mannequins a lot of times, so.
This is the easy folded poncho shape and size. It's really just a rectangle that looks like it has a sleeve starting at the one side, but that is the shape. The shape. And you can knit it with or without the cowl. You don't have to knit with a cowl. And Church Mouse patterns, for the most part, are very easy to read and to understand. And they have a great color sense as well. I always enjoy looking at their website, Pearl Soho's website, because you just get really great sense of their design, and color work is exquisite.
Classic. Very classic, colors. And
we took a Fair Isle class together, a 2-color knitting class, of which I dropped out of because you had to knit the sleeves on straight needles, and I could not pick on the purl side, which I still, to this day, I will knit Fair Isle if it's knit in the round. If there's a way to modify it to knit in the round, I'm all in. But
was that at Skeins?
That was at Skeins. And I bought all this,
I think,
Jameson yarn, or, it was not Hilo, but Dolly. I bought Dolly yarn, and I was going to knit this gorgeous poncho for Jane, or a sweater. And when I got to the sleeves, forget it. That yarn is still sitting in a bin.
What, did you ever knit anything with it? Like start it?
I started it and then ripped it all out. So it's just sitting there. But along came this Knit Simple magazine, which just seemed a little bit more easy to understand some of their patterns. But Corey will also always say about magazine patterns, watch out, because they are really going to modify because of the instructions because of
limited
the
space. Every page costs them money. And so they are going to get the instructions in the least amount of space possible. And oftentimes in the smallest font.
Yeah.
And so that's fine. Like, I understand it, but then you need to blow it up and you need to take it somewhere where you can get the instructions bigger. And oftentimes they are restricted in what they tell you, what you have to do. You have to know a little more. And there are knitters out there who don't want any hand holding. They don't want the extra stuff. They want to just knit the pattern and not overthink, which a lot of other knitters do. Like, what do you mean? We want the explanation. But in the magazines, they don't offer that as much.
This was the Fair Isle from that magazine of 2007 or 2008, the winter of 2007 or 2008. I still have the magazine. I can go home and I can clarify it. But I really liked the Fair Isle process. And I liked the rhythm of once I got the gauge and picking with my left and throwing with my right seems to work the best for me.
Yep.
And I get, it's pretty well stitched.
Yeah.
You know, there's a few, I think the steeking has always been a real challenge in my mind.
Everyone.
Taking a sewing machine and cutting, and Renee was just doing that one, and it's gorgeous. It's stunning. And so she did she videoed it for YouTube.
She did on Instagram. On her Instagram, Knittroverted Renee, who was on the podcast 4 times ago, maybe. And she brought that sweater. So we would have showed it. But she did show her, because she's a very good sewer. She just sewed project bags for a long time. But she videoed herself sewing the steek and then getting ready to cut it open. That's
worth watching if you're thinking about steeking for the first time, or if you have already done a sweater that you've had to steek. I watched it and I really learned a lot. So Janine Cozell, Rosemary's daughter, used this for a blocking class and blocked it for me originally.
Oh, okay.
And that made a huge difference. Proper blocking.
Yeah.
Especially any type of color work.
Yeah, because Janine worked at Three Kittens Yarn Shop for many years. And then now she's the yarn rep. So she's a very talented, knowledgeable knitter, like her mother.
2 books.
Which is kind of surprising because most daughters would not go that, like our daughters are not going that route of Kylie doesn't have a desire to even knit in her free time. And maybe as they get older and they have kids, maybe they'll say, oh, my mom knit, maybe I should knit baby sweaters. But
I hope so.
I think as long as we're around.
Well, they got to use up our yarn. But Jane was 14, and that summer she was 14, I made her knit a sweater. And that will kill anybody's desire to ever pick up needles again, as if you're 14 and you sit inside for 2 months with your mother knitting a sweater.
Well, Kylie was in kindergarten, and her kindergarten teacher was having a baby, and she was going to knit a baby hat in the round on a little needle and, rolled brim and whatever. And I think she was in high school when we found it in the basket and it was still there on the needles. And she's like, that's Mrs. Witt's baby hat. I was like, and I still get Christmas cards from Mrs. Witt because we loved her. She went from kindergarten to 1st grade with her class. So we had her for 2 years. And we prayed when we moved to Virginia that we would get her as a teacher. And she was amazing. And she has 2 daughters, and we became friends, and she's an avid reader. So we swap book stuff. But that hat,
it's still
like
there.
Jane's sweater. Well, what did Jane knit? Like a little...
It was a pullover. It had sleeves, and it was just a lot of stockinette knitting. But she did finish it, and I don't even know where... She probably has it. So speaking of Jane,
we can kind of lay it on here like
she
this.
probably is, since she's my only child, I knit for her most prolifically, I would say. And I knit this sweater 4 years ago. It'll be 5 this summer. And she did not show up wearing it till last Christmas. Walked into our house a year ago, Christmas with it on, and I about fell over in the kitchen. First of all, it fit, so that was enough to shock me because I had not seen it since I had knit it. And I bought the pattern and the yarn in San Francisco.
Sorry.
Bless you, Corey.
We got fuzzies.
Got fuzzies.
Yeah. Okay.
I bought the yarn in San Francisco and the pattern, and this is the pattern pullover. It's a Juniper Moon and Essex. And it's still classic, even at 5 years.
Oh, no, it is just stunning.
It's their yarn.
It's by Allison Green.
Mm-hmm. Easy pattern.
Herriot
Bottom up. This was a 38-inch chest bust size. Herriot is the yarn that I knitted in. And that is also Juniper Moon yarn. And you can't see on camera, but it has a little peacock edge, which just is fabulous. And the edging is on the sleeves as well. The only problem with this pattern, and I like their patterns, is that the sleeve numbers are completely off. So I had to knit the sleeves twice. They're meant to be an elbow or wristlet length, and they were way too big for Jane. And the sweater, if I held up a picture of Jane wearing it, fits her perfectly. But yeah, it has a lovely edge.
Really, when you look at it, just when she pulled it out, seeing that edge makes it so stunning.
It does. It's just those little details, and that's not a hard detail to do. But in the picture, if you pull this pattern up on Ravelry, you'll see that sleeve is tight. They must have clothes-pinned or put an extra small sleeve on that model, because it's not at all what the pattern tells you to knit in terms of the measurements.
Now, I think, I'm going to rack my brain here, but I think Juniper Moon Farm was the one that was on the island up by New York somewhere. And they raised sheep, and they were doing and then they moved. They moved to the middle of the country. Is that right? Is that the same?
Yes.
Yeah, because back in the day, Juniper Moon Farm came from the ocean, and now it comes from Midwest, I think. But lovely yarns.
They have a lot of patterns out in the pattern shop on Ravelry. I want to say they have 400 or 500 different patterns. They're all current patterns, very knit worthy.
Anybody could knit that today, because it's really cute, really pretty. I like the neckline too.
I do too. It's not quite a boat, but it isn't a regular
crew.
Thank you.
Yep, I agree.
And this pattern back in the day was from Cottage Yarns in South San Francisco. It's just by the airport. So if you happen to go to San Francisco and you have a layover, you're 10 minutes away by cab from this yarn shop. And the pattern was $3.95 back in the day. It's just great.
Yes, Susan knows where all the yarn shops in America and Hawaii are, and overseas, because you have done a lot of traveling in your day.
I have. I'd love to I told Corey if I was going to do this today, I want to put in a pitch for a story about a yarn business that you'll have to log on and look at June Cashmere's website. June is Karaz in Kazakhstan, in their language, in their native language, the word June. And so the name of the company is June Cashmere. And this is along the Silk Road at 10,000 feet, where these goats are raised and the shepherds live. The women knit with bicycle spokes because they have no needles. The story of these shepherds and how the two American families moved there to learn the language, learn the culture, make friends with the shepherds, because foreign countries were coming in and shearing the goats completely instead of just taking that best cashmere on the underbelly and not paying the farmers a fair wage. And two Americans, one that had two small children, moved to Kazakhstan, lived there. This is milled in England, so it's sent to England, and then it comes into Maine for finishing. And the operations group is out of Ohio. They do an every other Sunday not podcast, but a knitting, virtual knitting get together. And I will often jump on and see what they're doing. If you look on Ravelry, they have Norgon has created patterns for them. They've got some very
for sure.
name brand creators writing patterns for them. And this is just so sweet. It's vintage look.
Yeah.
So the yarn is not over milled. This isn't like your J. Crew sweater.
Cashmere
that's going to pill. This won't pill. It's not over milled, which is a huge difference. And the way that they do the shearing and the way that the mill in England then takes it and spins it, this is not an inexpensive process, but it has created an economy there for these shepherds, the farmers, their children can go to school and have clothes, and they're able to really live a much better life.
These buttons are perfect for this.
Thank you. I don't think they're perfectly straight, but it is a panel that it's a very old pattern that June Cashmere reinvigorated, but you can button off. You button it off, so if the baby irps, you just take the panel off and wash the panel. You don't have to wash the sweater. And my daughter's pregnant, so I've knit this one, and this is in their DK weight. They have a DK weight and fingering weight, but when you go to the website, the colors are going to grab your heart. Curry is one of my favorite. I found them because I wanted to knit for my customer, a physician who was retiring, an electrophysiologist that I called on while I was at Medtronic for 14 years. And I got very close to him, and when he was retiring, I wanted to knit him a garment of some type that he would actually wear that would fit him. So I went with a scarf, but I wanted it to be very elegant. Yeah. And I found June Cashmere, and I bought their yarn, and I knit him a scarf, a beautiful scarf with a lot of pattern and texture to it that he loves. So it is, I've now taken 10 minutes to talk about June Cashmere, but
do you think this audience is not used to that? Not a problem.
This is premium yarn that's worth every penny. You will love knitting with it. I'm knitting a sweater. If you look out on their site, the pattern is called the Turmok, and it's a knit from the bottom up sweater, and it is got a swirl and the coolest collar, and I'm knitting it in the curry.
What does a skein cost from them, roughly?
$40 to $50 for a skein. There's a lot of yardage.
And 50 grams, because this is a very lightweight yarn, so you can't really compare it to a superwash merino, which is what most people go into the yarn store with that concept in mind. So you get 308 yards, which is significantly more than a 50 gram skein of fingering weight. So it is thinner, but it also it has a bloom, so it's definitely going to bloom, so it should still knit to that fingering weight gauge. So it's 8.5 stitches to an inch. So you're getting more yardage. So when you think about the price, you have to think about per yard prices. $44 for 308 yards. And a regular fingering weight skein could run $28 for 400 yards. So you're getting an extra 108 yards, which is costing you an extra $10. So I mean, it's a little more than fingering, but when you go, I think that number 44 would be super shocking to most people.
Yes.
Whereas you're getting more yardage because of the bloom. It definitely is going to bloom.
Yes.
And that's fingering, and the DK weight. Okay, so the DK weight is the same price, $44, but you get 50 grams and you get 150 yards. And with DK, in 100 grams, you'd get maybe 250. And so you're getting an extra 50 yards, at least an extra 50 yards with these grams. So for cashmere, that's more reasonable. Because when we were at Be Woolen with you a couple weeks ago, that cashmere was in the corner on clearance. Yes. And I stood there and said, you may not buy yarn, you may not buy yarn. And you and someone else were like loading up your arms with that. Because it was on clearance for...
Yeah, it was a variegated, it was string.
But it was barber pulled, right? Like almost
string, it was.
Yarn coat.
But
which got bought by Webs.
Off. Right, and you were never going to see it again in the way that it was now. Just like how Cascade 220 doesn't look anything like it did a year ago.
But how much was that yarn? Were those skeins?
Those were regular $50, $60 easily, and they had it 40% off at Be Woolen.
But several people bought quite a bit.
Right.
Because it was back in that corner.
You know, when you think
about... And I'm still thinking about it. Like, it still reminds me. And I have to run up there to get my Pretty Boxes sweater.
Oh.
So I can take it with me to Arizona. I need to go up there and grab it so then I could...
This will be on your great-grandchild someday. I know my daughter's looking forward to...
Passing it. Yep.
Passing it along after her baby girl is born in the spring. Rowan is my other passion, and keeping with the Fair Isle theme here, I'm on the third time around with this hat. I've knit it for my daughter in a gray. This is Rowan's DK alpaca, soft alpaca yarn, and you only need a little bit more than one skein, which is somewhat irritating because it makes you then have enough left over to kind of knit something else with. And then it doesn't use obviously as much as the secondary color as it does the primary. It's a 5.5-inch brim that is done on a size 3 circular, and then you switch to a 6 for the color work, and it flies.
Okay, there you can see it.
It's really pretty.
Very
pretty. This is their brown, which has, it looks gray when you have gray on, and looks brown when you have brown on.
Yep.
Because they don't do a dark gray. Rowan for alpaca doesn't do a real deep gray.
Yeah, no, it's pretty close to sheep. That's why I would think.
One of the first patterns I ever knit for Jane was an owl sweater. And if you look on Ravelry, there are several, including Corey has a pattern for owls.
No, I teach the owls
class.
The
owls class.
But yeah, but I have owl's cowl and hat that I designed for that class, but it's not on around because there are already 200, you know.
Yeah, owls are popular.
Very.
This is so sweet. And when I knit it, it doesn't have a home yet, but it soon will for, again, my daughter. But I knit this a couple years ago, and I brought it over to Corey to have her help me with the finishing because she's a much better finisher than I am. She said, you know, why don't you take my box of buttons, which is probably the ultimate gift, bring them back, but take what you need to put the buttons on.
Yeah.
But mix them up, she said. Yeah. And there's the creativity. That makes all the difference. Otherwise, it's a boring little owl sweater.
But it's cute. It's very classic without the buttons. But when I did the adult ones, I put the buttons on the front for my mom and another couple of friends.
I really like mixing the buttons because this is the third time I've knit it. Once was for a gift for someone else, and the first time I knit it was for Jane, and I sold it at a garage sale after she outgrew it, which was a stupid thing to do, but I didn't care for the color.
When they outgrow them, you just hang them on a hanger and put a nail in the bedroom on the wall and hang it up on the wall. Oh, a decorative hook, but you know. Yes. What is this yarn? Do you remember?
This is, it's like, I want to say it's Bummel.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Which is a wool cotton
blend.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But I liked the gray. I think it was.
And is Jane a neutral like you are?
Yes. Jane is a redhead and will not wear pink and she won't put the baby in pink. And I didn't dress her in pink, and because I was a true redhead, my mother didn't put pink on me or my sister. So she's more the neutrals. Yeah. Some brights.
Yeah, because Kylie's not a bright at all. And I'm such a bright, and we just don't have the same palette really at all. But I would think that Jane with her hair and her height and whatever.
Remember when we went, you took me to see, what's his name? Facet?
Kate Facet?
Kate Facet, yes. And we were talking about color, and I was driving us there. He flew in and did a whole
talk that night. Way over, like in Woodbury or something.
Mendota Heights.
Yeah, we were way over there.
And I said, I just don't think I'm into color. And Corey said, you drive a screaming red car and you painted your kitchen orange. And that was the first time I'd really considered that, I do like color.
Yeah, yeah. You're just very, you're a very classy dresser because you presented every day of your life in a professional environment that needed to be that way, right?
Couldn't be about you. It had to be about the product or the service.
Right. And I was a teacher, so like I could kind of just wear, more fun colored things and bright colors or whatever, and it didn't matter. Like
it did matter though.
The kids are
more receptive to.
Well, probably, but the kids would also say things under their breath about, look at what she has on today. That kind of stuff. The girls, though. Right?
Yes.
And you're like, yeah, it's color. But there was a difference in the way we spent the last 32 years.
Yes, it's true. That's a good point. There's some psychology to all of this. My last item that I brought was, the pattern is from Sisu Design up in Ely. If you haven't been to the knitting shop in Ely, it's worth the 4.5 hours. And if you stop in Hinckley, 5-hour trip. And I'm up there frequently in the summer. And I went to their fall retreat at Nanabuju Lodge in Grand Marais. It's an extraordinary group of women, and if you're ever thinking about moving anywhere, the first thing you want to do is figure out where the knitting shop is in that city or town you're thinking about living in, and then go to one of their retreats. I met 30 women from the community and from neighboring states who summer up in Ely along Burnside or Lake Vermilion.
Because you kind of grew up on Burnside.
Yes.
And if you're not aware,
as a married
Ely
woman,
is way
northeast
of Minnesota.
Yes. Which is very small
north
town.
Of Duluth, and
2 hours north of Duluth.
So
northeast.
But there is a yarn store there, and she is a designer. She does knitting patterns and
Anna Schulman. And she's an incredible knitter, but she's also got a group of women that design patterns. Diane and some others, Chris, who did this, an older pattern that they reinvented, and it's got, as you can see, the wolves are howling at the moon. But then I went to Bee Woolen after I made it, and I thought, find me a really cool faux wool pom-pom. And this has got the blue in the pom-pom
with the tips that
are brown. And so it just sets it off.
Yeah.
And so finishing, blocking, and the accessory is critical, wouldn't you say? To anything?
Oh, yeah, for sure. Well, and that's the way you have a skill set around accessorizing and putting outfits together and colors together and adding a scarf or a bag. Like that is something that you have had to do.
Yes.
But you're really good at it. And I don't know, even with some of the younger gals who are now running around doing this, sales to the hospitals and all that kind of thing, if they would present in the way as well as you did, because I think that's a gift that, like, whenever you show up, you are put together.
Thank you.
Right? And like today, I was like, I'm putting my leggings on the bottom because they're not going to show, and then when we're done, I'm going to take the sweater off because I'm going to be too hot.
Oh yeah.
But I wanted to put. I don't wear it very much because it's a little tight now.
It's fitting.
But it will. It's okay.
No, it's well, fine.
I have to. Yeah, it needs to.
You have it buttoned up. You wouldn't normally have it. You could wear it open.
It's sewn shut.
Oh, it is.
Mm-hmm. I stitched it shut on purpose because the
So it's a pullover.
Basically, I mean, up here it's open, but I stitched it. See right there.
I see.
Right there. Mm-hmm. I stitched it because the button band was wonky. It didn't. How sometimes they're flappy and they don't hang quite straight and stuff. And this will just permanently mark it, and then if I take that out, I think it will even hang better. It was kind of a blocking situation too.
Who's yarn is that?
Madeline Tosh.
Oh.
And this is that sweater that's called Persistence is Key. Like, who names a sweater that? But there was so much going on at the top of this sweater. I have never, like, you are knitting around and then you're doing the shoulders, which are...
I love the shoulder. If you could see
it's
this.
Perfect.
There's no seam.
Yeah. It's a perfect...
Yes.
Yeah, because it fits right on your shoulder. It doesn't drop off.
Yeah,
but then you're going across the back and you have the cable and then the big cable.
Did you have to do short rows
in the middle,
back then?
And then...
Did you have short rows?
Yeah, before. Mm-hmm. And then you come across to that cable and then you do... And these are weird. Like, they're not normal raglan,
very
increases or decreases. But then you come back around to the
detailed.
front and you're doing that cable again. So... It's such a long way around, but there are multiple things going on until you get to like right here. Then it gets much better. Then then that's straight, and that wasn't as bad. But that first part, it's those first, I don't know, 15 rows that you're just like, I just have markers everywhere. Keep it going. But it was knit in yellow when in the pattern, and I was like, I need a yellow sweater because I did not have a yellow sweater.
How many yellow sweaters do you have now?
Oh, just a couple. My Anne Hinga is yellow and gray, kind of like this, but more yellow, like your Poncho was. And then I have lots of striped and patterned sweaters.
You were going to ask me.
Yes.
How many?
Yes, I am going to ask you, and then you can ask me back. Okay. But how many items, how many works in progress do you currently have? Just that you are currently working on.
Well, so I'll keep the face serious.
Okay.
9.
Yep. That's not bad because there's my whip tree. They're all in there. And I have them all in the front of my Ravelry. And I do have a blanket, you know, on the needles, like with those little squares, mitered squares that, you know, sometimes I take out and work on or whatever. I don't really count that, but I think I have like 10 or 11 on my front page of my Ravelry. But then you have used the little snooze icon on the Ravelry projects page.
And there are 30. If you look at my Ravelry, you'll say, why is that your username? Because when Corey told me to sign up for Ravelry, right after Ravelry started, and there were very few people on in the beginning.
When you could have had any name you wanted.
I was working at Medtronic, and so I just put my last name on, Bergquist. And that is my name, Bergquist.
Although I think that now there are people, because you go to events and stuff, that chose like alphabetical letters and stuff with numbers, and they're walking around with a name tag that says JLKB7942, right? Because they were like, well, I need it to be, I think there's a big part of me that wishes that my design and everything were under Corey Eichelberger. I never wanted to use Eichelberger for anything. But now having Corey Eichelberger on my patterns on Ravelry, because that's what they put, and then but also having IROCKNITTERS designs can be really, you know, that's why all the big designers go by their names.
Yes,
because
you got
it's
a brand.
Easier than having a brand. Right, you got it exactly. And so I just counted. I have 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16 that are on the needles, but 2 of them are blankets, granny square blanket and a mitered square blanket that, you know, may never see the light of day. And 1, 2, 3, 4 are currently like in progress right now. Now, could there be something hidden away somewhere? There could, but
I wouldn't.
But you just Z'd them because you think you want to come back to them someday, or you Z'd them because they're next up.
They're next up. The 32 or 30 are next up, which, do the math. At my age, well, we'll just see what lasts longer, the hands or the desire to knit and to keep buying more yarn.
I will make you feel better because currently in my queue, I have 15 pages of items, and those are things I want to knit. And let me just scroll down really quickly. 448.
Oh, I feel better.
32 is not so bad.
This
right?
was worth the drive on the
look,
coldest
see?
day. Oh, and
that's
there's
the
June Cashmere.
That was in their newsletter.
It just came out last week.
Yep. That's that little vest that came out from them
Which
last week.
I'm going to knit it.
It's so cute.
How many? I think it takes 5 skeins.
I'm not sure. I didn't look at that because I didn't want to.
And it's done in DK? Fingering. It's done in fingering.
It's called Morgan, and it takes 1,000 to 2,300 yards. But if I was making it, I'd make the 1, 2, 3, 4th size over, which would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 skeins.
5 skeins, which isn't bad. They have, if you, one more plug for June Cashmere, on the website there is a pattern set of a twin set. And I love twin sets. They're just classic because you can wear the vest. If you're on your road trip and you forgot to pack a sweater, or it warms up suddenly on your road trip for work, you've got the sleeveless piece under, and then you can wear the sweater with something else over the cardigan over. And that, they taught a class just knitting the sleeveless undergarment.
Oh, okay.
And then you could knit the sweater as well, but it's just...
Yeah, well, I don't have a cashmere sweater.
No.
So that would...
you don't?
I don't. Because I have a little bit of cashmere in my stash.
I'll have to think about that.
But
well,
yeah, I'll need to...
Cashmere sweater.
No, I don't.
Well,
I don't knit fingering weight sweaters.
Well, you don't. You can knit DK.
Because no, I like them. Today I was like, what can I wear in the podcast where I'm not going to be? Because I get a little warm when I'm sitting here with the lights and I talk and I don't know, I get warm. And I was like, what can I put on that's lighter weight? And I was like, you don't have enough, because I do have like, I don't know, let's say 5, but I've worn them all recently. So today I was like, what have you not worn on the podcast in a while that you can just put on while Susan's here, because you know, it won't be quite
it looks
so
nice with the orange underneath. You always accessorize as well, to the point of the watch band coordinates.
Well, the watch band, I wear a lot of orange.
With the nail polish.
Yeah, well, everything's waiting. Hair Friday, nails Monday because we leave Tuesday. So everything's waiting till I go, because I wanted to wait a little bit.
Now I know you're working on this diet, but true to form, whenever I see Corey, and Corey's gluten-free, I bring her the gluten-free chocolate bar. This is one of our favorites.
It is so good, but I cannot eat it.
But I'm passing it along to you to thank you for inviting me.
I will put it in a prize package on the
that's a
podcast,
great idea.
because
It's really good
they're
chocolates.
so good. And I
Hi.
give something away, that orange bag right there. I give something away every podcast. So we have to think of a question or a thought based on like what we talked about today. And then they comment down below, and they're all wonderful people, and they say really nice things. And honestly, I have yet to have a really nasty, I've had some people be owly, but there are people that are nasty, like to Amber. She got a nasty last week, and from someone, and it was just rude. And I said to the people who've come on my podcast, my people are so nice. I love the podcast. I love that sweater that you showed, and Susan was so great, and I loved, and they just say nice things in the but
good.
Whatever they say down below, they have to use a certain word, and then I draw from all the comments, and I have a box of giveaways.
What will it be? Chocolate?
So yeah, we'll use the word chocolate. And then I'll take out another little bag that's over there, and it'll either have like a little notions pouch or a ruler or what else in it too. But then they have to tell us something about chocolate, like whether or not they like. We have to tell, we need
dark chocolate,
yes,
or milk chocolate. Anything in nuts,
yes,
or in this case,
or plain or
pretzels,
gluten-free pretzels.
The
There's a little bit of crunch in in this one.
It's really
I'm
good.
not a huge fan of dark, but this is 33% cacao.
Yeah,
and
it's milk chocolate.
I know.
But your cardiologist would
no,
say
I know,
it's
because
heart
but they
healthy.
also make dark, and I've tried their
Yes.
dark, and I just can't get over the bitter. I should. No gluten, no nuts, no eggs, no artificial preservatives. So that's amazing.
And their chocolate is, I think, high quality.
My only problem with this candy bar is that I could go and have a square. Like on my plan, I shouldn't, but I could. Like I'm really trying to be pure for. It just started. It's been a week today. I don't have the discipline to then not eat another 2 squares later, and then 3 squares tonight, and say, oh, well, that wasn't too much, right? And then 4 squares like at midnight. Or
We
what?
usually
Like
help you.
I know you do. I know, but I'm just saying, giving it away, I will feel good about that because someone else will get to try it.
Yeah.
And it's
Yes.
you didn't need to bring that today.
It's what we always do.
It is, but you must buy the case, because I've had like 12 in the last.
And I knew she wouldn't eat it this time, but I thought, I'm going to bring it again anyhow.
I just want to be, like, I'm doing really well on this new plan. And so, and I talked about a little bit on the podcast, like the plan that I signed up for and what I'm doing. I'm pretty good at losing weight when I get motivated. Like I can take off.
Yes.
My maintenance, the other side of it, can be more challenging because of the continual orthopedic sitting around
It's
issues
now
that
my
I've
turn,
had.
right?
I know.
Actually, it's literally my turn for a joint, although I haven't picked the next joint yet. I think it'll be something in the hand from too much knitting.
Yeah.
But Corey and
my little
I
thumbs. Yes.
trade whose joint is next. And
so you've had back and shoulder.
Back, rotator cuff. I have L4, L5 is completely gone. When Jane
neck,
was
did you have
7.
neck back?
Nope, I have not done any thoracic or cervical.
So it was, yeah. And then now you got 2 new hips.
I have 2 new hips. I did rotator cuff.
Yeah.
And the feet, both feet have multiple sets of pins from breaking things and not going in. And don't do that, go in. And
Amber.
It's okay though. I'm older than you too, so that
but not by
you got to catch up.
Yeah,
you got to catch up. But I haven't done knees, and knees are the worst. And you did a knee very young. Because
yes, 20 years. It's been 20 years.
Cheerleading did you in
gymnastics? Yep, in college all the way through,
and teaching cheerleading.
Yep. And that's probably why my thumbs went sooner. You know, because I pounded. Before they had better equipment. Like it was, you know, we pounded on we would run and boom on you know. And now it has a little spring in it and it has padding. Our boards didn't have padding that we hit, you know, so my low back hurts. I wonder why. I think that about the football players too.
We should do a knitting stretch class.
Oh yeah, there is someone who does them at I've gone to a couple retreats and they have people that do them, because we're way too.
You can knit standing up as hall monitor.
I did
at Wayzata High. She could do that, but majority of us are sitting.
Well, no, I'm sedentary in the evening. I set a little thing that goes off on my phone and to help me get up and go.
My watch tells me to
let Chevy out and go do something, go up and down the stairs one time or something, because it's pretty easy to sit down early in the evening and then knit until.
And just keep going. Well, you're a night owl.
I am, because last night that darn podcast wouldn't upload and it was 3:30. And it was taking forever. Yes. And I was, at 1:30 it started to move ahead faster. But what I like to have it up the night before on, late Monday night, then I just hit public. But if it doesn't upload, it sets and then it uploads. And so if it doesn't set, I could get up in the morning and it wouldn't be uploaded because the first part of it didn't happen. So it's like a pre thing, and I'm watching that. It's just not moving. And I'm like, I'm going to get up in the morning and then I'm going to try to upload it. And it's going to usually takes an hour or more. And, I had the construction guy coming and you got coming and Chevy, and I thought, it has to go up tonight. It has to go up.
And it did.
Yes.
It did. Way to go.
But 3:30.
3:30. Oh.
So we're all going to thank Susan so much for coming, because she did drive out. How cold is it today?
It's minus 20 with the wind chill, but it's 6 above right now.
Yes. Fahrenheit right now. Yes. So overnight we've been having some wind, and it's bitter. It's bitter by the back door of the garage, which is all the farther I've gone today. Yeah. Well, I'm going to go out later. I have to take some. I'm knitting hoods, Great Bear hoods.
Oh yes,
for 2 little kids. The 2 little kids that modeled. So I got them done, but I want them to try them on. Mary Mahler's grandchildren, but I want them to try them on before I put the fur on, because if they're not. If they're taller or shorter, I didn't.
They were pretty true. I've knit this 3 times, and we found an error with the first one that just went out corrected. Yeah. But they're adorable, and the kids wear them, and they keep them on because of that ability to pull it down, and it's a cowl.
Yep, and then they don't lose them.
They're
so I knit them, but I was just he's so petite that I didn't want it to be too tall, because then it will be open around his face. It won't provide the. Right. So I didn't want to say, well, I only want to try on Oliver's, but so I said to her, I'll drop them off in your front door, put them on, and then she's got to go out tonight, and she's going to drop them back in my front door, and I'll put the fur on and get them to him tomorrow. So because it's 2 rounds and bind off. So as long as I can.
Everybody should make these, even if you donate them, because they're so easy. The pattern, your patterns are beautifully written and a lot of time. And that's, I think, a 6-page pattern or a 5-page pattern.
Yeah.
For a hat.
Well, because it's got a checklist for every row. Because there's a lot going on at the front with that little V. Not hard.
No.
Knit 2, purl 2, and then slip, slip, knit, knit 2 together, and then knit a plain, you know. But there is that little V that tucks down inside the coat.
It lays nice and flat the way, because if you look at other patterns that have that same concept, they don't have that. They tried to go straight across with it, and they didn't create that more finished V. Yeah. So it would lay flat.
And they are chunky yarn. So I started them on Sunday. And got almost one done watching the football games and stuff. And then I was editing yesterday, so I was knitting on the second one. I was worried about the height on his. Because I remember he put on the baby one, and it kind of fit him in August or July when we were...
grow so fast.
I know, but that's what I'm worried. I know, but I don't want to get it over there. And she wouldn't call me and say, no, this is too big. Because I don't know her very well. Right, like the mom. So I thought... I reached out to her last night and I said, I'm going to put them in your front door. And then, you know, I can come pick them up. And she's like, no, we're going to ballet or whatever. I'll swing them back by and put them in your front door. So it'll work.
Well, thank you
for today. But yes, thank her for coming. All right. I'm back. It's just me, and you just watched the episode that I recorded right prior to my leaving to be gone for 11 days. And so I haven't been with you for a while, and it feels really weird that I had that pre-recorded episode with my friend Susan, and I edited that, and now I just have a whole bunch of stuff to add because I've been gone. So happy Valentine's Day, everyone. We are recording here on Sunday afternoon. It is the Super Bowl. I'm so excited to watch the game tonight and just knit. It's my favorite thing to do on Sundays in the winter, is that it causes me or allows me to just sit down and knit away and not stress about not getting things done around the house or not being on the computer for my business. Since I got back, I have not gone to bed before 1:30 every night, trying to get caught up on all the design work and everything that I'm supposed to be finishing up. I just got behind again. I don't know how I do this to myself every time, but I'm working really hard to try to keep up and get emails out and schedule teaching gigs. Oh my gosh, I'm going to be so busy in March. So if you're looking to take classes with me and you're kind of local, I am teaching all kinds of stuff in March. That will be in the show notes down below. Today I am wearing my Noro jacket. This is a jacket that I purchased yarn for to knit. It is just knit in strips, and there's solid sections under the arms, and then it's just stitched together. And then I went to Knitting Group, and a dear friend said that her sister had gone to a trunk show and bought this exact sweater. And I said, if she ever wants to sell it, let me know. And about a week later, Skip came back and said, yeah, my sister will sell it to you. So I purchased this. I did not buy it, but it is a full-on Noro jacket. Here, I'll stand up and show you. And it's long. It's like a long coat. It goes down right probably mid-thigh, but it's got all these open pieces, and it's always up on my top shelf in my closet, and so I don't remember to take it down. And then we have been having such mild weather since I got home. Like, oh, it's just been glorious. Today and yesterday and today it's cooler again. But when Susan was here, it was so bitter cold. And then it just warmed up. And so I've just been wearing this kind of as a coat. And it's Valentine's and it's all pink and whatever. And I got little hearts on my little fingers. So, because I taught for the Dallas Hand Knitters Guild. So welcome to any of you who are new from that guild again this month. So I taught last Tuesday, and they're a really good bunch. There are a lot of talented knitters in that group, and I did it on Zoom. It was really enjoyable. So, gosh, I have quite a bit of stuff on the table, and this has already got a long interview in it. So I'm going to try to run through it kind of quick, right? Down below, you will find all of the listings of everything that Susan showed. And if I missed something, let me know. She left me her notes. I typed them up, put them in, and I try to link everything in the Ravelry group. are the show notes as well. And those are all links to often the Ravelry patterns for things. Some of the things that some of my friends bring are quite old and, you know, from the past, but we try our best to find, you know, everything that we can possibly link. Oh, the drawing. Okay, people, I have a bunch of prizes that no one's claimed. If you do not claim them by next time, in 2 weeks on like the 26th, I'm going to give them away again. So get in touch. Susan McDermid, Rita Wood, and Michelle Palmer, please all get in touch with me because I have 3 packages sitting in my office that need to go out. So I just need your address sent to me via email or on Instagram or Ravelry. I don't care how I get it. Just get me your information because I've been sitting on these for many weeks. And I know that people don't always get back to watching podcasts right away. So it is always helpful for me if you make a comment, if you put your Ravelry ID in the comments so I can message you. That is very helpful because I can't message on YouTube. I'll go back and search through all the comments and put, hey, you want a prize if you haven't responded, which I did to these 3 people and I still haven't heard anything. So please get in touch with me regarding that. And then, well, I may as well do the prize winner for this time right up front here because otherwise maybe she won't hear it. So the prize winner this time is for that rolling polka dot travel case. And that is going out to the person who made a comment about the jewelry. We had such a lovely talk with Julie Lamb, and she was at Vogue Knitting Live, and one of my friends was there, and so she went over and said hi to her. She's got beautiful jewelry, but the person who wins this rolling bag is Fern Mama Makes. So Fern Mama Makes commented about the pieces, two pieces of jewelry that she really liked. Some tiny little U and something else I can't quite remember, but anyway, so get in touch with your address and I will put this rolling cart in the mail to you. Should we do the Corey stories? Let's go like in interesting reverse order. On that Tuesday, I flew out to Arizona with my husband, who we were going to the Barrett-Jackson car auction, and we are meeting his brother and my sister-in-law out there, and then his brother was going to go to the auction with him, and then leaving from the auction after 4 days, we transfer across the city, like from Scottsdale across to Phoenix, and we go out to a conference that my husband has. So it's about 45 minutes west. We stay at the Wigwam, which is a beautiful old resort from back in the day that they have redone, very Pueblo-esque buildings. But I will tell you one thing, I didn't spend a lot of time with my husband on this vacation. And at the end of 8 days, we both were like, that was too long to be gone from the puppy and home if we weren't going to be like together. So I went to the auction the first day, and then the second day I stayed home and knit. I will show you that sweater. And then I went to knitting with a friend. And then I knit and knit and knit and walked and knit. But then when we moved to the conference, he's busy and he's not coming back for lunch and dinner. I did eat with him one night with a coworker. The first night we walked across the street to a really, really cute little Mexican restaurant, just delicious food. And then on the last night we did the same thing with another gal from his work. So there were 4 of us, but otherwise I ate alone and spent my time alone, which is fine, except I'm an ultra extrovert. So I like to talk to people. But you know, I walked and the weather was lovely. This was the first time ever in Scottsdale when we've gone in January, and this is our 4th time that people were actually in the swimming pools. Like it was warm enough during the day that kids were swimming, adults were sitting out in the sun. Like usually you can be outside, but it's not hot or, you know, very warm. It's just nice, the sun, but people down there are wearing jackets and sometimes hats when we're down there. It feels warm to us, but yeah, it was lovely. I'm not complaining, but you know, if you're gonna go on a vacation for 8 days with your husband, you probably want to see your husband. And he was just, oh, and he loves the auction. And I went to Tempe Yarn, so I have some purchases to show. And that was nice too. But next year, if we go down, I've decided that I'm going to teach. I contacted Tempe Yarn and ahead of time, and then we didn't have enough time, but I think I'll teach, and then that will keep me busy, and I'll feel like more than I'm just not sitting around knitting for days on end and whatever. It was fine. I needed to get a lot of knitting done, but then I also feel like I could have done that at home, right? Do I sound like a ungrateful sloth? Anyway, but on our way to the airport, we are driving across the city. It's 26 miles from our house to the airport. I always remember because it's a marathon, and marathon length. And we're parking in the parking ramp, which is just a little bit further from the airport. And then we're taking the shuttle over, and we're pulling our luggage. And my husband has 2 bags, and I have a little rolling like carry-on, and then my suitcase. And we're kind of barreling off the tram, and it dawns on me that my wallet is in the car. Oh dear, oh dear, oh dear. And I said to Ross, my wallet's in the console. He's like, what? What is it doing in the console? And I went to the dog park the day before, and when I go to the dog park, our new car doesn't need the key, and the key's always in my backpack. And so and it's zipped in because I don't need it at all. And then when I walk up to the car, it opens. So I'm not used to carrying my key, and I don't like to carry my bag to the dog park because it's in a really remote area, and there have been some thefts of people's stuff. And so I just grabbed my key out of my backpack and my wallet, and I put them in the center console. And then I take my key out and put it in my pocket coat of my coat. And the day before, I went to the dog park, and that morning my backpack was empty, right? I could feel that. And I was like, oh, your wallet's in the car. When you get in the car, you'll just grab it and put it in your backpack. Well, apparently when I picked up my wallet, I also had my water bottle and my rolling bag and my little knitting bag, and my hands were full, and I forgot. I just completely forgot. But my husband is a quiet, mad man. I'm a loud, mad person. He's very quiet. He's just like, okay, stay here with the luggage, and I'll go back and get your wallet. So we had to call and when you get out of the bus, they say, do you have everything? Do you have your keys? Do you have your phone? No, I don't. I do not have my wallet with my ID. I can't get on a plane. We had our passports, but like Ross didn't want to leave my wallet in it was just not good. So the guy came back, the little shuttle bus came back and picked him up and took him over there. He got it, and then he brought him back. He wasn't gone. It was maybe 20 minutes, but it could have been worse. I could have left it at home if we'd have taken a different car, his little truck or something. Oh, it was just not a good start. We always leave plenty of time, and I'm always mad that he wants to leave so early to go to the airport. And he was like, the only thing he said was, this is why we plan plenty of time. Then I had to be real careful. While I'm sitting at the airport for 20 minutes, I'm like, I have to tell someone I'm so stressed, and this is just... So I called my mom. I'm over 60 years old. Called my mom. I'm like, you're not going to believe. And she's like, oh, Ross is going to be quiet. I'm like, yes. And he got over it right away. Like he just doesn't get mad. He doesn't blow up. He's just too kind, but you just know, he's just like, really? We wanted to get lunch. I wanted to get lunch. He's like, oh, and then I did a Marco Polo to my friends group and was like, you guys are not going to believe what I did. What a way to start. Anyway, no one was hurt. Nothing, terrible. And then at the auction Friday night, so we all went Wednesday, he went Thursday, he went Friday, I went to knitting on Friday. Friday night, we go out to dinner, and he said, I really think I want to go back to the auction and bid on that Corvette. And I was like, what? There's a Corvette you want to bid on? Well, the one this morning that had less miles and was a little nicer went for less than it should have. And if I could get it, I would totally get it. And I was like, okay, I just really dislike the auction. It's just so loud and there's so many people. So, but I'm like, okay, yep, let's go back over there. And we were on our way from eating dinner out. So we went back over there, and we get there, and I'm like, what number on that? And he looks like it's like an hour out. And I'm like, okay. And they have to get all the cars for the day done. So there's like no closing time. They're just going through. Just to make it short, we sat there for 40 minutes or so. And I said, okay, how much longer? And he's like, about another hour. I was just, it's 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock, 9:30. We're still there. And, he's in watching, but I'm sitting out at a high top table, just out of the loud, because I didn't have my headphones with, because I usually put headphones on, because it is so loud in that arena. They just can't miss a bid, right? Like everybody has to know what the prices are, and like it's thousands of dollars. And so then it comes up, and he's like, okay, let's go in. We go in, we're sitting in the first of the second tier of seats. And I said, here it comes. You better get the guy over, because there are auctioneers out in the audience that throw the bids up to the head 3 guys that are on stage that are watching them come in. And he's like, yeah, he's right there. I'm like, yeah, but don't you want to tell him that you're like interested? And he's like, yeah, but he didn't call him over. And I get myself in trouble with Ross because I'm so forward and so outgoing that I will tend to, talk for him or like jump in before I should. And I thought, this is his deal, right? I'll just keep my mouth shut. And I said, how high are you willing to go? And he said, if I can get it for under 40,000, I can make money on it. I can fix it up a little, and I can make way more than that bringing it up to Minnesota. And I'm like, okay. He's never not made money on a car that he's chosen to redo. We missed the auction bid. He missed it. It was going up, and I said, put a bid in, because he just wanted to jump in at the last minute if it didn't. And the auctioneers have to know you're in it, right? Like you're part of it. He should have bid in at 20,000. It went to like 28 and 29, and I could tell it was slowing down. People were not bidding. And so then he tries to get the guy's attention that's nearest to us. And he's probably, 15 feet away, 20, but it is so loud in there. And Ross is like raising his hand, and the guy's back is to us. And they slammed the gavel down, and he would have had it. And he was so disappointed. I was probably more disappointed than he was. And I was mad because he wasn't listening to me, because he's like, I know what I'm, kind of like, I know what I'm doing. He didn't say that. He never says anything, but he's like not jumping in. And I'm like, you need to jump in. The guy needs to be standing right here to throw the bid up. We've done this once before, and we stopped bidding because Ross just, the bids can go so fast that you don't even know how much you're spending, right? Like, so that was another huge disappointment. All the way to the car, I'm like, honey, I'm so sorry. That would have been such a good buy. I mean, I think it went for maybe 30, 32. Like it was much lower than he would have spent. Maybe a little more than that, but and he's like, you know what? It's just another good lesson learned about how I need to do it. And then that's how he looks at it. And I'm just grouchy. Like we stayed there for all these hours. We waited and waited. It's late. We're tired. Oh, it was such a bummer. Let's talk about just a few audiobooks really quickly. I read The Devil's Bride by Stephanie Lawrence because it's narrated by Simon Preble. If you are an audiobook fan, go listen to anything by Simon Preble. He used to do the Dick Francis books back in the day. Best narrator ever. This book is from like 1998. It is a romance. It's a really long one. I listened to it once on our way home. It's spicy, but it's long. It's kind of Regency era, lots of rules about how they need to live. She's riding a horse through the woods. It's starting to rain. And there's a man that is been wounded in the road, and she stops and her horse takes off and she's left with this man and she doesn't know where to go or what to do, and she wants to try to save him. And and then this knight comes, it's not a knight, but comes flying down his horse trying to make it home to the castle or manor before the rain hits, and he almost slams into her, and then they run to a little place in the woods and save this guy's life. And that's how it starts. It was just really good. Then I listened to The Fourth Wing. Finally, it came through on Libby. I've been waiting for it forever. This is probably one of the most popular books right now, or well, in the last 6 months that people were reading. It's not usually my genre. It is, all about dragons, and it's a little it's a little Harry Potter, a little Hunger Games, kind of like, right? But just a great story. It's got a little spice and 2 narrators. So a female narrates the whole first part. She was good, but a little young. I thought, like, her voice was a little young for the character. And then toward the end, there's a guy character and a huge twist for the next book to come. So highly recommend. Yeah. Fourth Wing. Then I read The Mystery Guest by Nina Prose. I loved The Maid. Autistic, on the spectrum, Maine character, working in a very hoity-toity hotel, loves to follow the rules, loves to clean, was raised by a grandmother with lots of pronouncements about how to live in the world, and she lives by all of those. This just didn't do it for me. It just didn't. And there was a lot of, uneven reviews with The Maid. Like, there were people who just really didn't like it. And I think those of us who listened loved The Maid, because the character, you could hear the character and her struggle in her voice and the way it was presented. And if you were reading that on the page, I don't think you would read, this is going to sound weird, but I don't think you would read the autism well. Whereas when it's spoken, it's really well done. This was good. It takes place in the hotel. An author comes in to speak. They're getting everything all set up, and then another mystery happens and has to be solved. And she helps with it because she's really, really good at details. She remembers all the details. But it just didn't live up to the first one. It wasn't that it was not good. And then I finished, finally, The River We Remember. So I had started that in hardcover form. My brother had given me a copy, and then I loaned it to someone because I had 2 books that were due, and then I just finished it on Audible. I was just like, you know what? We're traveling. I'll just finish it up. So that's by William Kent Kruger. It's very good. It's what happens in a small town back in, where does it take place? Is it 2 different? Yeah, it goes back and forth. So it's the World War II people, and then the Vietnam men coming back to this small town. And there's a Native American man who's married to a Japanese woman, and there are a lot of hard feelings in this town about that. Like, a lot of hard feelings about a, person of Japanese descent and the way that the Native American is treated. Yeah, and so this follows the sheriff in the town. It's very good. Highly recommend. I have a few special notes and things I have to tell you this week. I watched Maker Mark, and he has a podcast out, 13 videos, and his podcast, his name is Mark Vogel, and he put up a podcast that said something like how I spent, what was it, $10,000 on yarn in a month or something. It was like one of those that I shouldn't say, the young people do, where it's kind of one of those clickbait things where you look at it and you're like, well, I have to watch that because what's he talking about? So I did click on it, but he's quite a good knitter and has some really good videos out there. So I would recommend, if you're looking for a new podcast, Maker Mark Vogel. Another thing that I have been watching is Cole the Corn Star on YouTube. Have you guys seen him? This is a young fella in Iowa who lives on a farm, and he is restoring an old house, which is what sucked me in. But then he's also telling everything there is to tell about farming and how he works and how they work on their farm. And he's got, I don't even know, hundreds of thousands of followers. He's very popular, but their farm is called Corn Star. So he calls himself Cole the Corn Star, which I just think is really clever. If you are looking for something interesting to watch, I probably watched for 2 or 3 nights. I just continued to watch his YouTubes. Fascinating, really interesting. Talks a lot about corn and soybeans. But then they're fixing a tractor, and then he's organizing, and his grandfather died and left this house. And the house, Grandpa didn't want to give anything away on the farm. And he said something like, we were always known as the garbage farm or the messy farm or the farm with all the junk. And so he's cleaning it up. He's cleaning up the whole farm. They've got parts and oil drums and, you know, just stuff everywhere that Grandpa wouldn't get rid of. And now his dad and his brothers farm this property. He's married. He has a tiny little baby. Just had a second little child in December. But I was catching up, so I knew that she was pregnant. But he works from sun up until sundown, and he's like 26 years old. He's really enthusiastic about YouTube and sharing stuff about the farm. It's just a joy. It's just a joy to watch. So I would highly recommend going over and taking a look at that too. And then I just wanted to give you an announcement that I got a message on Etsy from the tapestry bag shop, which I've talked about on this podcast, and I know some of you have gone out and bought those tapestry bags, and they have left Etsy. A lot of people are leaving Etsy because Etsy's practices have changed, and it used to be a handmade only market, and now there are all kinds of people selling, you know, everything, vintage clothes, stuff they don't make, junk, and they're supposed to shut that down, and they're not staying on top of it, and now they're charging more and more fees to become a bigger seller platform. So people are leaving. People are leaving Etsy, and the tapestry bag people, so MCW Handmade, have their own .com now. So I just wanted to give you that heads up because they were so pleased that I had talked about their stuff on the podcast several times, and they got some sales for me. They just wanted to let everyone know. So that link I'll put in the show notes down below. And then I just got from a friend at Sweater Camp, even though I saw it on Instagram, wrote it in my show notes, and was going to go buy one. This is that new tape measure from Twice Sheared Sheep. And it is a stitch marker at the top, and you hang it on your knitting needle, and then you move this little slider up to how long you have to knit. So if you have to knit 8 inches, you move it up to 8 inches. If you have to move, knit 6 inches, and that way you don't have to keep measuring, right? You don't have to get your tape measure out. It literally hangs on the needle. It's not very heavy. It comes in multiple colors. I don't remember what she paid for it. Maybe they were like $18 or something like that. It's pretty well made. It's got a little thing in there to slide down and slide up. So yeah, I was really thankful. Thank you, Bonnie, for getting me one of these because you ordered one for yourself. And yeah, I was going to talk about it. So it is from Twice Sheared Sheep. I love their stuff. I just applied to be an ambassador for them because I send people there all the time. And so I just thought, well, I'm going to share this too because, and if you don't follow them, go to their website, twiceshearedsheep.com, sign up for their emails because they have a ton of innovative accessories for knitting, like stuff you've never seen before, and really well done. So this is the sheet that I had printed out about the little tape measure hanging on a needle. And yeah, I put on here, it's called Working Until ... measuring tape, and it's $10. So yeah, there you go. And I have a couple of patterns here from this maker that I thought were really cute because many of you are dog lovers. But this is Jenny Penny, and she is on Ravelry, and she's a designer, and she designs hundreds of mittens. Aren't they cute? Like, wow, look at that color work. it's just, I'm assuming she duplicate stitches the eyes, but she has tons of animals, cats, dogs, different ones. Yeah, so Jenny Penny. I thought that was cute. And then these mittens say Knit Fast Mittens. And and they have balls of yarn on them. I will have to put a better picture in, I think. I'll put a better picture in. This is by the Knitting Barber. It came out in February of 2000. And one mitten says knit and the other mitten says fast. And they cover your little hands and they have yarn balls on them. Really cute. I love knitting mittens. I need to design some more mittens just so I can knit some mittens because I haven't knit mittens in a while. I read an awesome article called Toxic Food that came out in Newsweek magazine. I'm all about food these days on this new plan. Americans are addicted to ultra-processed foods and it's killing us. Yeah, we are. What they're putting in food is highly addictive. It makes us want to eat it. We eat it in excess. We're getting heavier, fatter. I don't care about the size of people, but I do care about the health, their health and my health. And we're not doing good things for ourselves. I started following this gentleman on Instagram. He is Eddie _ Abu, ABBEW. And he is talking about how terrible foods are for us. And when it comes up in my feed every day, it helps me to remember to eat whole foods only and to not get, you know, kind of scammed by the junk, because I was really addicted to a lot of junk foods and, you know, things. And he talks about packaging and he was a former bodybuilder. And he tells it like it is. He's a really strong African-American man. And he was like, quit eating this. You do not need this. It has got junk in it. And he talks about how it, you know, some of the foods we're eating can lead to acne, depression, panic attacks, stress, high blood, like all the things. And it's just like a really good feed thing to have in my feed, right? When I'm just looking at knitting. And then I have this gentleman telling me, just, you don't need to eat this. You don't. And on my new diet plan, yeah, I'm just really finding that it's just much better. I feel so much better. I don't want to talk about it too long, but the plan is working great for me. I've lost over 16 pounds. I'm a month in. I'm still eating really purely. I have not gone off the plan other than when we eat out. The food is not always prepared in the way that I should prepare it. Like they want you to always prepare in avocado oil, steam or roast your vegetables, no butter. Sometimes stuff you know, but I'm not doing it. I'm not making those choices. I'm just, yeah, those kinds of things. So I couldn't be happier. Last Thursday, I went and did red light therapy. They have a near light red light therapy booth. It is medical grade. And it can help you to shrink your fat cells a little, works with your collagen, goes into your mitochondria. It's really good for inflammation, but it also can help with skin tone after dieting, after losing weight, because you start to like get loose skin, you know, and it can help to tighten that up. So they have this plan where you can buy 8 packages and it can lose up to double your number of inches by doing that. And so right now we're discussing whether or not I want to do that plan. I have done red light therapy before for inflammation, but this is a different type of, they're using these red light therapy, ultraviolet, you know, no, infrared, not ultraviolet, infrared lights on like brain tumors, on lasers, like what they're learning and how to move forward. So that has been super interesting too. But if anybody wants to talk more about this, just send me an email or, you know, leave a note in the comments and I'll chat with you. Okay, one more little things I have to tell you. I got a post on my Instagram feed that said, got empty boxes laying around? Retailers such as Amazon are teaming up with local charities to use empty shipping boxes to get rid of the clutter filling homes. After removing your order from your shipping box, fill it with clothes you want to donate and visit givebackbox.com to print a free shipping label. The box can also be dropped off with the postal service or picked up, and you can also print a receipt for tax use. So you can print FedEx, USPS, UPS, any box. You can drop them at Kohl's and they'll take all that stuff. So if you don't have a place that you like to donate in your town and you have, let me show you guys this, a ton of Amazon boxes, maybe a goal in the new year could be to just put 1 or 2 things in each box and make sure that you're getting it back, you know, giving back some of that stuff. Givebackbox.com, doesn't that sound like a good idea? My husband just said today we're going to clean the basement in 2 weekends. First we're doing the taxes and then we're going to go down. I bet we have 100 Amazon boxes down there. Let me show you my sweater. This is how far I got on my sweater when I was in Arizona. The last time you were here, I had not gotten there. And this is where I ran out of yarn. How disappointing, because I bought enough yarn. So I don't know what happened. My gauge is a little tight, but it grew with blocking. So this is what I wore to sweater camp. Not. I tried to keep getting all the parts done. And then when I got home, I tried to find a skein between getting home Wednesday night and leaving Thursday afternoon. I tried to find a skein here in the Twin Cities that I could pick up or get, you know, before camp. Nope, people had the yarn, but not the colorway, this green, this tealy green. And yeah, I was just so bummed because I could have knit on it on Thursday and Friday and then we wore them. So we did take a group picture. My friend Mary didn't finish hers either, so we just held hers up. Everybody else wore those. I used Kelborn Woolen's Lucky Tweed. This is really kind of more of an orange in real life. Yeah, it's definitely rust. It looks brown on camera, but it's not. Yeah, no, it's definitely more orange. But I used colors that I already had. So this is a palette that is not super Corey, right? Like I don't think I own a teal green sweater, but I really wanted to use up some of the yarn I had. And I almost got it finished. That's what I knit on a lot while I was in Arizona at the car show and walking around. On the plane, going down and back. And then I had a shawl that I also needed to be finishing up, which I got, I don't know, over halfway, and then it was wrong. And I had to rip it all out and start over. And yeah, and now the border isn't working out quite right. So I'm just frustrated when that kind of stuff happens. But yeah, it is what it is. I'll get it figured out today, maybe during the Super Bowl here. I finished my ant hat before I left. So this is the ANT, a new take hat. I used up some fingering weight yarn that I had left over, and then I added some pink mohair to it on the other side. And remember the rule, this is the yarn with the mohair. The mohair always wins. So you could wear it either way, right side out or inside out, either way that you want to wear it. So I think this will go in the Christmas box. It pooled a little bit, but it's not terrible. And yeah, I think it turned out kind of cute. It's real bright and colorful for winter. And then let's talk about this sweater here. This is the Clementine sweater. It is a design by my tech editor, Karina Ferguson of Crest Star Studio. She's my new tech editor. She used to do quite a bit of designing. Then she was an editor for a magazine for a while. Now she's more into shared space and helping you get more work done in your workday by working together with other people to kind of motivate, lift up, and do shared workspace kind of stuff. So you can go over and follow her on Instagram, Craft Star Studio. But I always wanted to, and I've been working with her now for, gosh, what, year and a half, 2 years. I've always wanted to knit one of her designs. This is called Morganite, and it is a lace-topped cardigan. and it's open from here on down, and it just has the spot for the 3 buttons at the top. It is a raglan. This is Wool Miza DK, which is kind of a light DK. So the gauge is a little loose on the needle, like for the yarn. It could have been a little tighter. I am concerned about how much this will stretch and grow, the open lace section. It hasn't really too much, just hanging on the mannequin, but I just really wanted a red cardigan. I think at Christmas time, Valentine's, whatever, it's just nice to have that color, and I don't have a lot of red, and red was my wedding color. Like, I do like red. But yeah, so this is Morganite, and you can look that pattern up. It's available on Ravelry. It came out this particular pattern came out in Pom Pom Quarterly in autumn of 2013, so it is 10 years old. But it is done in a really pretty orangey color. In the original. Yeah, it's really pretty. So I just thought I would show that one on the podcast. Here I have a few more that I still haven't shared. I have a couple of scarves to share as well. I thought I would share this one. I found kind of 3 novelty yarn scarves just hanging out in a box. Something that I haven't worn in forever, and I thought, oh my gosh, you really should share that because that is a gem. I just called this Corey's Multicolored Braided Scarf. I did a braided neck piece by Teva Durham a number of years ago, and it was a bigger braided piece where you just knit, and then you make strips, and then you weave them, and then you kind of knit them together across your row, so it just is something that goes over your head. So that was called braided neck piece, and I just knocked it off by doing this. So it has black sparkle on one side and pink green sparkle on the other. So then you knit this piece down, and then you knit these little strips and weave them, and then you knit them back together on the other end. It's kind of a crazy design. I probably knit this, when did I knit this? 2007 maybe? But it was laying in there, and I thought, you know, if you were going to some kind of dress up party, like a costume party, somebody might want this at some point in time. So it's kind of funky. A little girl might like it actually because it's so sparkly, but I thought I would share that today as well. Let me just show you my yarn purchases. Just quickly here, I bought 7 skeins of Malabrigo in the fuchsia colorway. My husband had given me a gift card to Tempe Yarn. When I got there, I own a lot of the yarns that they have. I was struggling to find something. I love Malabrigo Rios. I said, I can't believe you're gonna go to Tempe and just get Malabrigo, but it was the color that was making me happy that day. I did get some buttons in fuchsia and in orange, and some wood orange buttons with little flowers. So I got those, as well as a sticker, Live, Laugh, Go to the Yarn Store. So now I'm gonna put that on my iPad. I did get a needle threader to sit by my chair. And then I got this little bag, which I thought was perfect. Orange and raspberry. Corey, keep it simple. So that is all I got. Then we went over to sweater camp. Oh my gosh, you guys, sweater camp was so much fun. I felt like a bit of a whirlwind because I got off the plane on Wednesday night and we left Thursday afternoon, and I had 8 days of laundry and suitcases, and I didn't even unpack. But oh, we had the best time. They had the best speakers this year. The food was great. The room was beautiful. I sat with a ton of friends. I talked to almost every table there, I think, because I'm always doing a little business. So I went around and gave out cards for everybody to get a little discount. But Telly Bean, my friend Stephanie, was one of the speakers, and this is her Knit Happy book. Knit Happy with self-striping yarn, and she had all of her samples there, and people were just gobbling up the samples and looking at all of the different designs. I've talked about this book before because she gave me a pre-copy to do a little quote for her, but I bought her Fab Funky Fibers sets. So these are sets that come with a light gray mini, and then they have these rainbow self-striping yarns, and I'm going to make her tee, which is in the book here. I think Stephanie is most well known for her sock arm sweater, where the sleeves are striped and then the body is solid. But this is the one that she was wearing during the talk that she did. And that one is called the Bright Axis Tee, where you knit your stripes going across. So you have that self-striping yarn, and then you just pick up and work down. And then this is the one I bought the yarn for, and it does get blue and purple at the bottom. Let me see if there's another picture. I'm sure there is. Yeah, here we go. So it goes all the way through the color, and then you use bare in between, and it does have lace that goes all the way down. So that's what I bought these two for. And I'm not going to use the gray because I'm not going to knit the body with gray. So I will have gray mini skeins left over, but I will knit the body with the cream. The other one I'm going to make is the cowl, which is this one. And it is gorgeous laid out. Just gorgeous. The stitch is super fun. And so I bought another pack of this with the dark color for the top and the bottom. So I ended up, Fab Punky Fibers had so many self-striping colors there. And I haven't bought like single skein sock yarns like this forever. So I did end up getting 3 of those. Then Teresa of Get Bents was there. She is the Get Bents Farm. I was not going to buy more yarn because that's the last thing I really need. And then she did a little talk on the stage. And she is so passionate about her homesteading and the farm and milling farms, and how all these sheep farmers are just giving away their wool because they can't get any money for it. And it costs them more to drive it to town than it does when they get there. Like, it's like 25 cents a pound or something ridiculous. So then I was like, okay, I'm gonna go pick up some colors and I'm gonna design a hat with her yarn, or a cowl or mitts or something. And she was giddy about that. She did happen to be sitting at our table with Sam from Lavender Loom and Brianne Moody, who also did a little talk. So I got these 2 skeins first, and then they're wound up already because I'm going to cast on this hat. And this is the hat that I got. Isn't it cute? Oh, I just think it's really cute. And it is a, oh, it didn't copy. It is called the Snowbird hat, and it just has those little like tracks in it. And so I'm going to knit that up with these 2 skeins of her yarn from her sheep. And then I bought the other 3 skeins for something else, for a design. So that's exciting. And then, you know what? I am such a sucker for a good kit. Like, kits are my jam. I know that is also what Kevin and Ray laugh about all the time, is that he likes to buy kits. But we were at Darn It Anyway on Saturday night, and just shopping and looking around, and I saw this kit for this little sparkle hat. Isn't that fun? Oh my Lord. I was just like, I have to have that. So this is Barocco Talara, and this is Lang Paillettes. And I'll hold those together and make a little hat in this kit. And yeah, so that made me super happy. So that is what I ended up buying, which was a lot. But this week for the giveaway, I'm going to give away my sweater camp bag, because I have gone to sweater camp a number of times and I have so many bags. And so this, I have not used this. I just got it. It says sweater camp. It has a thing for your keys, and then it has a front pocket out here. And then on the inside, it has just a big, giant bag. It's really nice canvas with really nice straps. It does say Darn It Anyway Sweater Camp Retreat, but there's like no date on it. It's got a nice black bottom. And then ironically, which I just thought was so kind of funny, Amy ordered seat pads for all of us, like seat cushions, because the chairs are this is at an event center, and the chairs are like wood, and they have a pad, but they're for like a wedding, like for sitting in for like an hour or 2. And we were going to be there for 3 days for 8 hours each day. So she ordered these cushions, and look at what came. She was so bummed. She's like, I can't even believe how little they are. But it does make a nice laptop or computer pouch because this is padded. And so then we just switched it over to that. But I'm going to put that in the bag too, because I just thought that would be kind of, you know, nice. So if you are interested in winning this week, just comment down below and let's use the code word sweater for sweater camp. And then I'll draw next time, and I will get this big, beautiful tote bag that someone else can use so much better than I almost left it with them because I thought, you know what, maybe they could give it to someone. Then I thought I can give it to someone. It's just a really nice bag. It's got the pockets on the end. Yeah, it's a nice bag. But it's also navy, right? And that's just not, I have orange bags and red bags and bright colored striped bags. And so I thought someone would love this. And so I will be giving that away for next time. Okay, a couple more things to wrap up. I have a teaching packet out on Etsy for $1 called How I Teach Beginning Knitting. And a couple of people have gotten in touch in the last month or so because they are teaching beginning. And they've told me that they bought that packet. It's $1. And it helped. So I thought I should advertise that a little bit more, that I have a little bit of a knitting packet out there that I put together. I also have a video on YouTube called How I Teach Beginning Knitting. So that's free to watch at any time if you're ever going to teach someone how to knit. And then I have upsized with my tech editor 3 of my oldest patterns to have more inclusive sizing. When we wrote the knitting book, Minnesota 52, and did my first patterns, size inclusive was kind of considered in the 50s somewhere. And now they're asking every designer to go to 62 bust. And so I asked my tech editor and I paid her, and we worked together on getting those 3 patterns upsized so that it goes all the way up to a 62. I'm not sure anyone will ever go back and purchase or buy those patterns to knit because a pattern has a really short shelf life. But if you wanted to give me a little bit of love, my Taco Tuesday tee is on sale for 50% off right now with the code Love Tacos, and you can get any of my taco patterns with that. I just put a coupon code together. Then in a couple of days, I'm going to put out my Cahoots sweater. That's the one with all the owls on it, the gradient or the rainbow. And then that will go on sale for 50% off, and the code will be owls. And then after that, it will be my Hootenanny hoodie, and that one will go on sale for 50% off using the code hoodie. So if you see those happening on Instagram, I will also put it in the thread in Ravelry where I keep track of coupon codes and specials that I give on my patterns. So I've just recorded with another friend on Friday afternoon, so that will be edited and coming out in 2 weeks. So I'm just keeping ahead enough to have friends on the podcast fairly regularly. I added several people during sweater camp who are on my list so that I can have them come on and bring their favorite knits of all time. But until then, I will see you next time. I'm off to watch the Super Bowl. Bye.